light of mine. I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine. I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine. I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine. Let it shine. Let it shine. Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine. Let it shine. Let it shine. I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine. I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine. I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine. Let it shine. Let it shine. Oh, love in my house. I'm gonna let it shine. I'm gonna let it shine. It's a little light of mine. I'm gonna let it shine. It's a little light of mine. I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine. Let it shine. Let it shine. It's a little light of mine. I'm gonna let it shine.
Shabbat Shalom. We are going to raise the roof tonight as we celebrate light, as we celebrate joy, love, peace, as we remember this evening the dream of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And as we celebrate together tonight on our live stream page on our website, unitedhebrew.org, there is an MLK song sheet that is just under all the links for all the ways that you can watch our service, just in case you would like to sing along. There is also a link there for Mishkan Tefillah that you can follow along in the prayer book. Or if you would like tonight, just sit back, listen, taking in the peace, the tranquility of Shabbat, and letting the words, letting the prayers, and letting the music lift your heart and lift your soul. And at this time, I'm going to ask you to grab your candlesticks, your Shabbat candles, the wine for Kiddush. And our tradition teaches that on Shabbat, when we light our candles, we welcome in an extra soul, an extra spark of holiness that helps increase the light in our world, giving us a taste of the world to come, a taste of brighter days. Dr. King preached, darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. As we welcome in Shabbat and welcome in the extra spark of light and holiness that is our Shabbat soul, we pause for a moment and ask ourselves, how am I sharing my light? Am I a light to my family and friends, encouraging them to be their best selves? Am I a light to my community and the world around me, standing up and taking responsibility when there is a need? Am I a light to the Jewish people, using the gifts that God has given me and upholding the promise of my ancestors to be a light unto the nations. And as we light our candles this Shabbat, please, God, help us to burn bright, and let our individual lights join together, creating a splendid holy light that is strong enough to drive out the darkness and to bring in the light of peace and love. And as we welcome in this light of Shabbat, bringing the warmth and the light to us, Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lahadlik ner shel Shabbat. And we take up our glass of wine, our kiddush wine, and there was evening and there was morning the sixth day. The heaven and the earth were finished in all their array. And on the seventh day, God finished the work that God had been doing. And God ceased on the seventh day from all the work that God had done. And God blessed the seventh day and declared it holy, because on it God ceased from all the work of creation that God had done. And if you are able, I ask you to rise as we join together.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu v'shabbat kodesho be'ahava uvratzon hinechye lanu zikaron lema'aseh v'reishit ki hu yom techilo emigro kodesh zeicher letziot b'Mitzrayim ki anu v'chalta ve'otanu kidashta mikol ha'amim v'shabbat kodshecha be'ahava uve'ratzon hinechaltanu. Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh hashabbat. L'chaim. Y'all may be seated now.
And we join together singing.
Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring. our silent tears. Thou hast brought us thus far on the way. Thou hast by might lead us into the light. Keep us forever in the path we pray. Lest our feet stray from the places, our God, where we met thee. Lest our hearts, drunk with the wine of the world, we forget thee. Shadowed beneath thy hand, may we forever stand. Faithful God, true to our native land.
And tonight, we are honored to have on our bima once again our very own Gerald Freeman. And Gerald, I hope that got you ready in the mood. Maybe it felt a little like church. I say that because I want to remind our congregational family that Gerald doesn't just share his gifts with us, with our family, but he has pastored a number of churches, and he has a gift of sharing his word, sharing his teachings, which we were blessed to experience over the summer. And what an honor once again for myself and Cantor Eicher to share this bima with you, and thank you for sharing your word and your message with us tonight in the spirit of remembering Dr. King.
And again, what an honor it is, Rabbi Rosenberg and Cantor Eicher, to share this sacred space, this bima here at United Hebrew Congregation with you. I deem it an honor not only to be a part of this staff, but to be welcomed as a fellow clergyman as we forge collectively our faith towards God. So thank you again for welcoming me here at United Hebrew Congregation. As we entered the Jewish calendar year of 5781, Rabbi Rosenberg led us, our staff, the rabbinic team, our staff, our rabbinic team, our community, through a theme of being strong and of being courageous. Perhaps like the sons of Issachar, who back in 1 Chronicles were able to discern, to distinguish the times and the seasons. Perhaps Rabbi Rosenberg knew that we were going to be facing some very challenging, perhaps even perilous times that would require both strength and courage. So thematically, this notion was less about our doing strong and courageous things, but more poignantly, it was about our being strong and our being courageous. This charge, this call, this command, this commission was for us to be. It was about our essence, our being, our becoming, more so than just doing. The charge, the call, the task, the assignment was for us to be strong and to be courageous. It was less about what we should be doing, but what we should be being. Because the fact of the matter is, you and I will never do unless we first become. You and I will never do great and explosive things unless we first become great in our own minds and our own attitude. So this sense of being, this sense of being strong, this sense of being courageous will prove to be essential when we were facing obstacles. And indeed, we faced a myriad of obstacles this year. The pandemic came and some political uprisings. She did not know that at that time, but perhaps, like the sons of Issachar, she was discerning prophetically the times and the seasons. Obstacles would come, opportunities would come, options and open doors and opinions would come. And so this clarion call to be strong and be courageous emerged from Joshua's leadership post the death of Moses. Joshua chapter 1, verse 1 through 9. I read it as we scroll the Torah, Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy. We're introduced to Joshua. Joshua chapter 1, verse 1 through 9, Joshua says this: "Now after the death of Moses, the servant of the Lord, it came to pass that the Lord spake unto Joshua, the son of Nun, Moses' minister, saying, Moses, my servant, is dead. Now Joshua, arise and go over the Jordan, thou and all this people unto the land which I do give thee, even to the children of Israel, and every place that the sole of your feet shall tread upon, that I have given you, as I said unto Moses, from the wilderness and this Lebanon, even unto this great river, the river Euphrates, and the land of the Hittites, and unto the great sea, toward the going down of the sun shall be your coast. There shall not be any man who will be able to stand before you all the days of thy life. As I was with Moses, so Joshua shall I be with thee. I will not fail thee, nor will I forsake thee. Be strong and of good courage, for unto this people shalt thou divide for an inheritance the land which I swear unto their fathers to give them. Only be thou strong and very courageous, that thou mayest observe to do all according to the law which Moses my servant commanded thee. Turn not from it to the right hand or to the left, that thou mayest prosper whithersoever thou goest. This book of the law shall not depart out of your mouth, but thou shalt meditate therein day and night, that thou mayest observe to do according to all that is written therein. For then thou shalt make thy way prosperous, and then thou shalt have good success. Have I not commanded you? Be strong and of good courage. Be not afraid, neither be dismayed. For the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go." It is the spirit of Joshua that we see resting upon and rising in the life of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Yes, he was born as a person on January 15th of 1929, but from the foundation of the world, he was called of God to have a prophetic insight, prophetic influence, and even prophetic involvement. To this day, his legacy is still making a mark that cannot be erased. I think when we look at the life of Joshua and we look contrastly at the life of Dr. King, that we will see some amazing parallels. Joshua means salvation. And through the sacred text, we see God at work through Joshua, bringing deliverance to his people. Though born Michael King, his birth certificate was not altered to reflect the name Martin until 1957. The name Michael, interestingly enough, means who is like our God. And the name Martin means war or warlike. So regardless of the birth name Michael or the common name that we know as Dr. Martin Luther King, we show through his life and his legacy what God is like as Michael, and warring for equality of all men as Martin. Joshua was born a slave in Egypt. Slaves were deemed the property of others and were considered less than. Thus, they did not receive and had to fight for the rights of fair treatment and equitable rights that others received just based on their lineage or demographic designation or the melanin of their skin. Martin Luther King Jr., though born legally free, was born at a time when his life, because of the melanin of his skin, caused him to be treated as less than or as the property of others and did not deserve certain rights. Joshua was groomed under the tutelage of Moses and was one of the 12 spies that was sent out from Kadesh Barnea to survey the land for their attitudes and the inhabitants of the land. groomed under the tutelage of his father, Martin Luther King Sr., and groomed under the education of Morehouse College, a historically black college and university, as well as men like Dr. Fred Shuttlesworth and Ralph Abernathy and others. Dr. King was mentored to be a great leader. Joshua became Israel's leader at 85. Yet at an early age and amid serious racial tensions, young Martin Luther King courageously rose to leadership, giving voice to the voiceless and hope to the hopeless. Joshua was obedient in his faith towards God. Yet as a Baptist minister, Martin Luther King was obedient in his faith towards God, expanding upon the principles, the precepts, and the oracles of God's word. Joshua had great courage, and he faced many oppositions. So true as it is for Dr. King, who had great courage throughout his life, we see him facing oppositions of those who felt as they were superior. He faced dogs and being unleashed. He faced the riveting stings of the pressurized water from the hoses. He faced being whipped, beaten, and even in prison. Joshua became a conqueror in Canaan. And today, and the days that follow today, we see the effects of the conquering dynamics of Dr. Martin Luther King as he has given his voice to many legislative and justice causes. So given the pulse of our nation currently, given the fear and the fatigue that is upon our citizenry, given the division, the destruction, the disappointments, and the demands of many, what do you think Dr. King would say today? I'm convinced that Dr. King would remind us that there are policies and agendas that are appealing and appalling on both sides or all sides. That there are things that this community or this group would find appealing, but there are some things in this community or this group that may deem appalling. It is so true that on this side there are things that are appealing, yet there are also things that are appalling. It is appealing to cherish the life in the womb and to deem it precious and to be protected. Dr. King would tell you that it is appealing, but he would also tell you that it's appealing to cherish the life after it comes out of the womb, and it should be classified and deemed as precious and protected. So the George Floyd in the womb that's being protected should be the same George Floyd that's protected outside of the womb. It's appealing to promote economic stability and the rights to secure resources and riches as we are seeking and pursuing the American dream. It's very appealing on this side that would be your stance, that would be your tone, that would be your tenor. But Dr. King would also say that it's appealing to provide economic assistance to those who need help to be stable, to have opportunity to pursue, and in fact to achieve the American dream. Dr. King would also tell both sides that it's appalling when there is violence. Violence should never be accepted. It should never be tolerated. And we can't describe violence on this side as anything less than violence, just as we describe violence on this side as violence. So what would Dr. King say to us in the Jewish community? I believe that Dr. King would say that once we have unrolled the scrolls and we've read the sacred texts of Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy, and we've now rolled the scroll back together, I think Dr. King would say it's now time to unroll your sleeves and get out and do the works that you've just read in the text to ensure justice and equality and liberty and mercy be expressed to all men. What would Dr. King perhaps even say to the Christian community? Most of us know that he was a Baptist pastor, a Baptist minister, a Baptist leader. His allegiance was to the Christian community. But what would he say if he were here today? I think that Dr. King would say to his brothers who ascribe to the same religious philosophy that he ascribed to, I think he would say, you cannot be my brother in Christ, but not be my brother in crisis. That you cannot have your voices voiceless when there's the victimization of others, but vocal when there's victimization and violence in your own community. I believe that if Dr. King were still here, he would challenge the faith community to not be apathetic, but to be prophetic, to use our platform, our pulpit, our preaching, and even our divine purpose to infuse in the people the precepts and the principles of the Torah and the sacred scriptures. And that therein we would denounce disparities. Therein we would denounce discrimination. Therein we would denounce differences. Therein we would denounce demeaning characteristics of those who don't look or think or act or live where you do. Dr. King would remind us that we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by the Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are our life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Dr. King would say to those of us in the Jewish community, Dr. King would say to those in the Christian community, that which we read in the book of Genesis, that all men are created in the image of God. Red, yellow, black, brown, or white hue, God loves you just as much as he loves me too. And so Dr. King would tell us to be a prophetic voice and lend our voice to the pursuit of life, justice, happiness, health, prosperity, and well-being for all. And to this we say together, Amen.
And as we take a breath, a big deep breath, as we take in the words that Gerald just shared with us, we think of Joshua and Dr. King, of chazak va'amatz, of strength, of courage, of being strong and courageous. And we join together in these words of strength, chazak.
We have joined this Shabbat to study, pray, and sing for inspiration from the words of Martin Luther King. Hazak, Hazak, beneath Hazak. We must not fill the world today with hateful words and chatter. Our lives begin to end the day. We become silent about things that matter. Be strong, let us strengthen one another. Be strong, let us celebrate our lives. Be strong, let us strengthen one another. Hazak, hazak, benit hazek. Tethered hearts and solid minds, bring this to an end. As love is the only force capable of transforming an enemy to a friend. Be strong, let us strengthen one another. Be strong, let us celebrate our lives. Be strong, let us strengthen one another. Hazak, hazak, benit hazek. Be strong, let us strengthen one another. Be strong, let us celebrate our lives. Be strong, let us strengthen one another. Hazak, hazak, benit hazek. Be strong, let us strengthen one another. Be strong, let us celebrate our lives. Be strong, let us strengthen one another. Hazak, hazak, benit hazek.
And we continue now with Baruch Hu on page 146 as we rise.
Baruch Hu et Adonai,
To page 152 as we join together in a statement of faith.
Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad Baruch Shem Kevod Malevuto Leolam Vaed.
And as we are seated, we turn to page 154. And as we think of that image that Gerald shared with us of that Torah scroll being unrolled, of us taking in its words, its message, and rolling it back up, we join together in the English of Ve'ahavta, words that come from Deuteronomy that remind us of how it is that we share our love with God and for God in this world. You shall love Adonai your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your might. Take to heart these instructions with which I charge you this day. Impress them upon your children. Recite them when you stay at home and when you are away, when you lie down and when you get up. Bind them as a sign on your hand and let them serve as a symbol on your forehead. Inscribe them on the doorposts of your house and on your gates. Thus you shall remember to observe all my commandments and to be holy to your God. I am Adonai your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt to be your God. I am Adonai your God. Adonai Elohechem Emet. Page 157. We read together at the top of the page. Standing on the parted shores of history, we still believe what we were taught before ever we stood at Sinai's foot, that wherever we go, it is eternally Egypt, that there is a better place, a promised land, that the winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness, that there is no way to get from here to there except by joining hands and marching together. Page 158.
Kamocha v'herim Adonai, Kamocha nedar v'kodesh, Kamocha v'herim Adonai, Kamocha nedar v'kodesh, no tehilo, Osei feleh, Kamocha v'herim Adonai, Kamocha nedar v'kodesh, Kamocha v'herim Adonai, Kamocha nedar v'kodesh. Moshe Miriam Ze'eli Anu Ve'amru Adonai Himno Le'olam Va'ed V'kamocha ba'elim Adonai V'kamocha ne'tar v'kodesh V'kamocha ba'elim Adonai V'kamocha ne'tar v'kodesh Ya'alom yad chazak, amen. Baruch atah Adonai Israel. V'kamocha ba'erim Adonai, v'kamocha ne'tar v'kodesh, v'kamocha ba'erim Adonai, v'kamocha ne'tar v'kodesh nora ve'ilo. Osei felech v'kamocha ba'erim Adonai, v'kamocha ne'tar v'kodesh, v'kamocha ba'erim Adonai, v'kamocha ne'tar v'kodesh.
And we continue with Hashkivenu, a prayer for peace. An individual has not started living until he can rise above the narrow confines of his individualistic concerns to the broader concerns of all humanity.
Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere.
We must accept finite disappointment, but never lose infinite hope.
People fail to get along because they fear each other. They fear each other because they don't know each other. They don't know each other because they have not communicated with each other.
There comes a time when one must take a position that is neither safe, nor politic, nor popular, but he must take it because conscience tells him it is right.
Courage is an inner resolution to go forward despite obstacles. Cowardice is submissive surrender to circumstances. Courage breeds creativity. Cowardice represses fear and is mastered by it. Cowardice asks the question, is it safe? Expediency asks the question, is it politic? Vanity asks the question, is it popular? But conscience asks the question, is it right?
Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu L'Shalom Ve'hamidenu Shoreinu L'chaim.
And as we celebrate this Shabbat, We remind ourselves that we are a people in whom the past endures, in whom the present is inconceivable without moments gone by. The Exodus lasted a moment enduring forever. What happened once upon a time happens all the time. And we turn to the Amidah, page 164, as we rise.
Adonai sefatai tiftach ufi agide yiratecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Page 166. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu ve'Elohei avotenu ve'imotenu Elohei Avraham Elohei Yitzchak ve'Elohei Yaakov Elohei Sarah Elohei Rivka Elohei Rachel ve'Elohei Leah Ha'el Agadol Hagibor ve'Anoro El Elyon Gomel Chasadim Etovim Vekonei Akol Vezocher Dehavot Ve'imahot Umevi Geula Livene Veneim Lema'an Shemo Be'ahava Melech Ozer Umoshia Umagen Baruch Atah Adonai Magen Avraham Vezrat Sarah, page 168. Atagi bol ulam Adonai, mechayeh hakol atarav lehoshia. Mashiva ruach umorid agashem, mechalkel chayim bechesed. Mechayeh hakol berachamim rabim, zomech noflim verofech horim. Umatir asurim, umekayem emunato lishenei afar. Bichamocha ba'al gevurot, umidomeroch, melech memit, umechayeh, umatzmi al Yeshua. ונאמן אתה לחיות הכל, ברוך אתה אדוני מחיה הכל. Page 170, אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום יהללוך הסלע, ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש.
You may be seated. And we turn to page 177 in our prayer books. And as we think of Dr. King this evening, so much of what he preached was love. But he preached peace and he preached hope. And one of the true gifts of celebrating Dr. King is often that opportunity for so many of us, where we go back and read so much of what he shared with us in this world. And one of the things that he teaches, or one of the things that we take from this notion of love that he preached, is that we have to be grateful. We have to have gratitude, and we have to share that gratitude. And so we take a moment of pause to think of all of those things in our life, even in the midst of this winter darkness, even in the midst of this dark pandemic, even in the midst of the uncertainty in our country. We take a moment because we can always find something for which to be thankful. God of goodness, we give thanks for the gift of life, wonder beyond words, for the awareness of soul, our light within, for the world around us so filled with beauty, for the richness of the earth which day by day sustains us. For all these and more, we offer thanks. Baruch atah Adonai, Hatov Shimcha Ulecha Na'eh Lehodot. And we turn in our prayer books to page 371. And at this time in our service, we think of all of those in our community, in our families. We think of those we know, our acquaintances, those who are in need of healing. And if you are thinking of someone tonight who is in such need, I ask you that as we pause in this moment, you call their name and share it with the universe. And we take all of those names into our hearts as we ask God to be filled with compassion for their health to be restored and their strength to be renewed. And may God swiftly send them a complete renewal of body and spirit as we join together in Mishaberach, our prayer for healing. Take a moment for silent and personal prayer.
blind, but now ways than when we first begun. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I am found. Was blind, but now I see.
We take another breath.
Mr. Dr. King.
Thank you. And since Cantor Eicher pointed towards that chair, and I realize I have not mentioned the chair yet, for those who are watching and joining us for the first time, especially on MLK Shabbat, you may be wondering why there is a red leather recliner sitting on our bima this evening. And this is a very special historic chair for our congregation. It is the chair that sat in Rabbi Grolman's study back on our building on Skinker Boulevard. And when Dr. King came to St. Louis, he came to St. Louis to speak in the community, not to speak per se at United Hebrew for United Hebrew, but he came to St. Louis, and Rabbi Grolman said, "Here's my pulpit. Speak. Share your words, share your gift, share your message." And Dr. King, coming to St. Louis, arrived a few or so hours early, and he sat in Rabbi Grolman's office with him in this chair that was in Rabbi Grolman's office, and he fell asleep. He took a nap, resting his weary soul before he was going to address those in St. Louis, so many of whom needed to hear his message. And so for the longest time, this chair seemed a mystery. We did not know. We heard of the red chair, and many of you know the lore of the red chair or got to sit in that chair at your confirmation or for whatever other reasons. And we were blessed to have this chair come back into the congregation about a decade ago. And when we remember Dr. King, we bring out this special chair. And it is certainly a chair in its power color of red, but a chair that I think reminds us of those moments where perhaps we need to rest so that we can think about how we are going to be strong and be courageous. But sometimes we first have to rest and then get ourselves there. So that is the story of our red chair, of Dr. King's special chair. And just to remind you, as we continue through this Shabbat, tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. is our Torah study. At 10:30 a.m., our Shabbat morning service. And at 6 p.m. tomorrow evening will be our next week now, Havdalah. And just to remind you of a number of things happening throughout the weekend, if you take a look at the Missouri Historical Society, which is housed in our former congregational building on Skinker Boulevard, there are a number of programs and opportunities that are happening virtually throughout the weekend to celebrate Dr. King and remember Dr. King. And a reminder, on Sunday afternoon, I believe it is 1 p.m., you can check our website we'll have the opportunity to join together once again with Alden Salovey for a very special book reading as his brand new book of liturgy, of poetry has just been released. So we hope to see you on any number of those programs this weekend. And we continue now on page 586 as we rise for Aleinu.
Aleinu לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. Page 591. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד.
You may be seated, and we continue on page 595. There are stars up above, so far away. We only see their light long, long after the star itself is gone. And so it is with people that we loved. Their memories keep shining ever brightly, though their time with us is done. But the stars that light up the darkest night, these are the lights that guide us. As we live our days, these are the ways we remember. This Shabbat, the heartfelt condolences of our congregation go out to the family of Alan Herbert Molaski. We are in the period of Shloshim for Carolyn Sue Altman, Bernice Bernie Birnbaum, Carol Jacobson, Adele Cookie Tamler Kraft, Ruth L. Lewin, Sharon Holtzman Saab, Paul Silberman, Sandra Lee Sokolik, Anthony Paul Thompson, Gerald Howard Tobin. This week, this Shabbat, we observe the yahrzeits and we lovingly remember Miriam Mary Abrams, Mrs. Joan Abrams, Esther Alper, Nathan Barg, Mr. Lee Barris, Hyman Becker, Lucille Berger, Harry Birnbaum, Theodore Burke, Robert Blatt, Belle Block, Lillian Bubbles Belaski, Bernard Bornstein, Morris Brownstein, Captain Richard David Chorlins, Eva Cohen, Isaac Cohen, Bernard Bernie Cohen, Benjamin Coplin, Betty Lander Cowan, Morris Eisner, Sigmund Essler, Hyman Feldman, Jerry Lynn Fox, Melinda Friedman, Palmyra Gilbert, Jack Gilden, Nathaniel M. Glick, Ida Goldberg, Bess Catlin Green, Chana Halpern, Marcus Z. Himes, Anita Iskowich, Harry Kaiser, Gustav Katcher, Esther Coplin Katz, Lawrence Kling, Jacob Coplin, Anna Kretschmar, Bessie Kussmer, Linda McRunnell, Leon Markovsky, Roswell Messing Sr., Bertha A. Miller, Minnie Millstone, Sylvia Moss, Lucille K. Pattis, Sue Pfeiffer, David Podolsky, Sadie Rosenthal, Jacob Sinofsky, Leonard Sinofsky, Harriet Wolf Schwartz, Lucille J. Schanfeld, Anna Siegel, Shay Silberberg, Elma Sinkoff, Joe Sirkin, Irvin Sokolik, Morris Stern, Rose A. Stone, David Strauss, Marion Strauss, Carol Hafner-Strauss, Herman Streifling, Rebecca Warshawski, Minette K. Weinstein, Arnold Weintraub, Ben Weissman, Balbina Wild, Betty J. Wall, Eugene L. Wolf, Martin Wolf, Ann Wolkowitz. Zichronam livracha, may each of their memories be for blessing. As we turn to page 598, and we rise for the recitation of the Mourner's Kaddish. Yit Gadal ve'yit Kadash Shemei Rabbah, Bi'alma Divra Chirute V'yamlich Malchute, B'chayechon u'v'yomechon, u'v'chayei Jechol Beit Yisrael, Ba'agala u'vizman Kariv V'imru Amen. Yehei Shemei Rabba Mevorach Le'olam Olmei Almaya, Yit Barach Ve'yishtabach Ve'yit Pa'ar Ve'yit Romam Ve'yit Naseh, Ve'yit Hadar Ve'yit Haleh Ve'yit Halal Shemei Dekudasha Barichu Le'ela Min Kol Birchata Ve'shirata Tushbechata Ve'nechemata Da'amiram Be'alma Ve'imru Amen. Yehei Shlama Rabba Min Shemaya V'chayim Aleinu Ve'al Kol Yisrael Ve'imru Amen. Osei Shalom Bimromav Hu Ya'aseh Shalom Aleinu Ve'al Kol Yisrael Ve'imru Amen. And on this Shabbat, as we come together to celebrate Shabbat, to welcome in Shabbat and welcome in that second soul, that extra soul that brings light and warmth into this world. And as we join together to celebrate the legacy of Dr. King, thank you, Gerald, for your beautiful words, for sharing your gift with us, for bringing life not only to the text, but of remembering Dr. King and encouraging us to continue to build on his legacy, but also to be and not just do. And as Gerald compared Joshua to Dr. King, so often too is Moses, or Dr. King compared to Moses. And as we think of those words, chazak ve'amat, strength and courage, Moses spoke those words actually to the Israelites just before he died. He offered them as words of blessing to the people, offered them as words of blessing to Joshua, and then he left the community. And then as Gerald spoke, God then bestowed that blessing. And so tonight, I am always reminded when we celebrate Dr. King of his great faith, of how he truly walked with God, but also a recognition that though theologically at times Judaism and Christianity are so different, Dr. King very much held the belief that not only do we trust in God, but we also have to trust in ourselves. We have to do the work just as much as we ask God to do the work. And so I imagine that this evening, if we asked Dr. King for a benediction, he would turn to the words of Moses in Deuteronomy, and he may even try to offer them in Hebrew. Chizku v'imsu al tir'u ki Adonai Elohecha hu hacholech imach. Be strong and courageous. Have no fear, for God walks with you.
He's got the whole world in his hands. He's got the whole world in his hands. He's got the whole world his hands, he's got the whole world in his hands. He's got the itty bitty baby in his hands. He's got the itty bitty baby in his hands. He's got the itty bitty baby in his hands. He's got the whole world in his hands. He's got you and me, brother, in his hands. He's got you and me, brother, in his hands. He's got you and me, brother, in his hands. He's got the whole world in his hands. He's got you and me, sister, in his hands. He's got you and me, sister, in his hands. He's got you and me, sister, in his hands. He's got the whole world in his hands. He's got the whole world in his hands. He's got the whole wide world in his hands. He's got the whole world in his hands. He's got the